Cultivation of Mind Should Be the Ultimate Aim of Human Existence by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. A very warm welcome to one and all present here. I am Ritu, and I would guide you along the session for this webinar on Dalit rights. Dalit consciousness in India is an outcome of the great work done by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar for the rights of Dalits and untouchables. So before we start our webinar, I would like to give a few basic instructions to be followed. Do not send any unwanted comments during this webinar. There will be a specific time given for the audience to ask questions and clarify your doubts. It is mandatory for all the participants to fill the feedback form, which will be sent during the session to claim attendance for the NSS volunteers. Feedback form link is given in the description of this YouTube live, and it will be open for 15 minutes. Therefore, I request everyone to be attentive and fill the feedback form. I would now like to call upon Sneha to welcome our speaker for this webinar.
A very good evening to everyone present in this webinar in this pleasant day. I'm glad to present a few words about our speaker for this webinar, Reverend E. Emmanuel Nehemiah, pastor at CSI KCD, Christu Alayam, Jayanagar, Bangalore. He did his early schooling at ITI Vidya Mandir at St. Patrick's. Pre-university at Cathedrals, his bachelor's at Ambedkar First Grade College, and his post-graduation in psychology and counseling at CMC Vellore. He's also done theological education in United Theological College. He is an alumnus of Bangalore School of Music Western Classical Violin. He interested are in varied fields like Dalit theology, history and politics, also a theatre artist. He is a Dalit poet, Dalit Christian activist and a columnist in Sifi, Telio, Ancient Age and Deccan Chronicle. He also practices Reiki, master and a counselor. A hearty welcome to you on this great webinar, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Sneha. I would now like to hand over the session to Reverend Pastor Emmanuel Nehemiah.
Okay. Thank you for the greetings. Can I go ahead? Okay. Thank you one and all for inviting me on this webinar on Dalit rights. I take this opportunity to especially thank my dear brother, friend Abhishek, who initiated this conversation with regard to this webinar. I would like to start with an introduction which I call Dalit Skiamaki. It is a piece from an unpublished article which is on Dalit selfhood, yet to be published. Dalit Skiamaki, it is a psychological expression, some sort of fight or war against the shadow self. However, this is how it goes. Broken at all realms, we are unequal among you and among us too. We are violent, we are selfish, we are misogynists, we are capitalists, we are drunkards, we are bloodthirsty, we sell our daughters and ruin our sons, we are fools, we are shit, we are evil, we are prostitutes, we are inhuman, and we can be everything that is abominable in this world. We are not even humans. The course changes too. We reverberate the excruciating lonely cry of the innocent victim at the sword end of the tyrant. Their pain and agony remind us of the hungry, abandoned child in the death-ridden, plague-infected ghetto. Outrageous, gushing and thrashing everything in sight. Dry and broken, parched and ever craving for the heavenly bliss. Ferocious like the disturbed cobra in the wild. Their subversive madness like a storm dismantling views of sophisticated life. We also embark justice, peace and harmony like that of the clear skies, exposing its twinkling and shooting stars. They are like the dancing of the green paddy fields to the tunes of the calming breeze, celebrating life with its ambiguities. What we are is also what we are not. What we are not is also what we are. We have survived. We will survive in ways that might burst your temples and cause pain in your guts. Dalit resistance know no boundaries. Don't even try to confine nor succumb us to philosophical methods and religious doctrines. We are above the skies, soaring high. We are also beneath the mud and soils. Light and darkness are impacted by our pleasing, unpleasing souls. Dare to bear the striking truth. In saying this, what I'm intending about a very pertinent question on who is a Dalit. The popular narrative about who is a Dalit is basically from a victim assumption, as though Dalits have always been victimized in the course of human history on this land. But however, Dalit self is also something that resisted from time immemorial the very notion of caste hierarchy, religious purity and pollution norms, and so on. With these introductory aspects of who can be assumed as a Dalit or who is a Dalit, I would like to plan my talk this evening on 5 particular points. 1, what is Dalit from an etymological and epistemological point of view? What is the meaning of Dalit? Particularly how Dalit Panther and how Dalit as a term is been assumed in the 20th and 21st century Dalit movements. With some sort of liberative nuance. That is the first area that I would like to speak a little upon. Second, it would be more on caste and untouchability, its origins, what is untouchability, and what kind of impact it has on particular self and collective community experiences. Third, I would like to go ahead and think about how caste and untouchability is a human right violation historically. I would like to ponder upon this theme from a philosophical point of view. And fourthly, I would like to also speak about Varna and how Varna system is such a theological farce in any religious assumed society. And finally, I would like to conclude on within Dalit, there is another category called Dalit Christian and Dalit Muslim, to whom the right to religion has been denied since 1950. The presidential order declares so. And finally, from these whereabouts, I would like to speak what could be Dalit right, and then open the floor for this interaction, discussion, and so on. Firstly, what is Dalit? What is this term all about? It is a Marathi, Prakrit, Sanskrit sort of vocabulary, dal, which means basically crushed, broken, split, and so on. The nuance of this particular word also means breaking through. Breaking through. It is not only broken, crushed, and split. It also embeds an idea of breaking through. Secondly, Dalit as a term or expression is beyond the populist understanding of the word. What is this populist understanding of the word Dalit? As soon as you hear the term Dalit, usually people think it is a bunch of a caste affiliated community which is seeking for some sort of solace in the society. which is seeking for some sort of peace in the society, which is making use of constitutional reservations and so on for their own upliftments. This is the popular understanding. But however, Dalit as a term is a social construct of the 20th century. Before the modern Dalit movement, there was probably no collective political consciousness or a term that could amalgamate Dalit communities throughout this country in its length and breadth, in all its sense. Dalit as an expression, more than a word, it is an expression which is bringing all the Dalit communities, all the subservient communities, the communities those are particularly affected by the notion of untouchability, and on whom certain kind of also those who have been forcefully asked to live at the fringes of our societies and so on. So Dalit is an expression that brings all these people together. On the other hand, Dalit could also mean those who are raging against, with a lot of immense anger, with a lot of immense sensitivities, emotions. They are raging against this very demonic social structure, caste system. So Dalit is this progressive term, progressive collect or a community. It can also be understood in terms with it is a socially, politically, spiritually a protesting term. You know, it asks very pertinent, critical questions on not only the existential reality of humanhood in this country, but it also asks very pertinent and critical, and I might also use the vocabulary, defying aspect to various notions of politics, sociology, philosophy, spirituality, religiosity, and so on. So Dalit as a word is such a huge progressive term in which there is a possibility of hope. That's where I stop on Dalit. However, Christian Dalits have also embraced another term for themselves, Anavim community. It is a Hebrew term. Anavim basically means the breaking of the womb. The breaking of the womb, which has this notion of breaking through hurdles. There is a possibility of new beginning. There is pain, obvious pain, but there is a possibility of new beginning. So some of the Christian communities, Dalit Christian communities, call themselves, we are Anavim communities. We are not only Dalit communities, we are also Anavim communities. With us, there is this possibility of hope, not only for ourselves, for the entire humanity. So this is where the word Dalit is. So thereby, two things that we have to understand from the word Dalit. One is, though it is popularly used, it has very, very intentional, liberative notions to it, protesting notions to it. There is essence of hope in it, not only to themselves, but to the entire humanity. Secondly, when it comes to caste, where it all began, how it all began, various scholars from various sections and various disciplines have pondered upon this particular question. We have European scholars, we have our own scholars who have thought and explored on this reality. One popular understanding in regard to the origin of caste is the Aryan invasion theory, where a group of nomads from the West world come into our territory. They not only occupy our territory, but they take hold of all the resources and also subjugate the inhabitants, the aboriginals of the land. This is a populist theory. But however, within the Dalit community, this particular theory has been countered. Ambedkar is a classic example. Ambedkar renounces or refutes this theory, basically because this has a notion of race. When Ambedkar is refuting this particular theory, Ambedkar should be understood in terms with his experiences or his knowledge about racial superiority and racial subjugation in America, his personal experiences in America and so on. So Ambedkar refutes this, and he refutes it basically because it is racial in nature. However, Aryan invasion theory has contributed to some sort of collective consciousness, or it has brought Dalit thinkers and Dalit movements together to think about the very origin. If this is not the case, what is it? So in that sense, there is a potential of positivity in this theory. However, Ambedkar's refuting and protesting against this theory also gives way how a Dalit person can think about origin of caste, origin of caste system, origin of untouchability. So in a way, Ambedkar is giving a new option to think about, not only to accept the prevailing theories on this particular subject, but also there is a possibility to research further. So Ambedkar gives two proposals. Ambedkar says caste prevailed in this land through endogamy. Endogamy is rooted in the kind of labor or work imposed on certain communities. Endogamy is where one particular community engages in marriage only within the community. It wouldn't want to go beyond the community. So endogamy contributed to this system. On the other hand, Ambedkar also recognizes within the history of humanity in this country, and he identifies origin of untouchability in terms with the Buddhism, broken men. And when he understands broken men or broken community or broken humanhood is obviously Buddhism in the land, because Buddhism is the first to collect, or the popular collect at a certain era, which refuted systematically all the notions of Brahmanic or Vedic religion. These are the two prominent theories he places to understand the origin of caste system in the country. However, it is also important to see how Ambedkar is contesting and elaborating on this theory of where it all began, how it all began. 1910 census, Ambedkar is raising serious questions on what the census board in 1910 declared of who is in Hindu, who is not in Hindu, and within Hinduism, who is a vegetarian Hindu, who is a non-vegetarian Hindu. In a way, this particular document also conveyed Ambedkar who were Dalits, who were the untouchables, who were the outcasts. And there were 10 points that were raised in this particular census to decide who is untouchable. 1, the one who denies the supremacy of Brahmins. 2, the one who does not receive the mantra from a Brahmin or other recognized Hindu gurus. 3rd, deny the authority of the Vedas. Do not worship the Hindu gods. 5, those who are not served by good Brahmins as family priests, have no Brahmin priests at all, are denied access to the interior of the Hindu temples, causes pollution, the one who causes pollution by the notion of touch or within the certain distance. Number 9, those who bury the dead. Number 10, those who eat beef and do not have any reverence to cow. These were the categories that were placed in 1910 to understand who is an untouchable. From here, Ambedkar picks number 2, number 5, number 6, uh, and number 9 and 10, which is, those who have completely said no to Brahminic superiority. One. The second notion is the one who is assumed to be an untouchable. Number 3, the one who is associated with the beef or eating of cow or cow slaughter and so on. These are some of the available understanding on the origins of untouchability, or who an untouchable is, who a Dalit is on this land. But however, we should ask a pertinent question: what is untouchability? How this is an agency that dehumanizes anybody? Could it be from the oppressed communities or from the oppressing community? What untouchability, the concept of untouchability does is it dehumanizes the very essence of human. It has two impacts. Untouchability as a notion, as a collective consciousness at a particular era, which has been sustained so far through various means and sources, has diminished the very value of who an authentic human can be. Human can be understood in this regard only on two regards. One has to be an oppressor, or the other should be an oppressed. Now you see how it limits the very scope of who a human is. On the other hand, untouchability is also an agency, a social agency, or a social segregatory agency through which human senses are diminished absolutely at all realms. You can't see certain communities. It is not only the Brahmins who hesitated to see the untouchables. There was a time where on this land, even the untouchables would not encourage Brahmins in their cherries. They would not see a Brahmin. For them, it is such a curseful thing. So what I'm trying to place before you is the concept of untouchability evades the possibility of senses. You can't see certain people, you can't smell certain things, you can't taste certain things, you can't touch certain things, not only in close proximity, but in a certain social distance. That is why you have one particular community. That is why you have one particular community which is very closely associated around the temple region. And after that is the second circle. And after that is the third circle. And after that is the fourth circle. And after that is the fifth circle. The fifth circle are the ones who are completely away from the social reality itself. The dynamic social reality of a village or a city or any social concept in this country. Now, the third most important thing that I wanted to speak to you all about, untouchability in a way directly means human right violations. Basically because it is a potential dehumanizing agency. It is a potential dehumanizing agency. And this should be understood not only from a religious point of view, this should also be understood from a philosophical point of view. When I say philosophical point of view, I'm taking two streams within philosophy, which is existential philosophy and essentialism. Existentialism and essentialism, and go ahead reflecting on what untouchability can possibly do. When I say existentialism, it is not what Paul Tillich would understand courage to be is, or Soren Kierkegaard's notions of fear and trembling, or Kafka's understanding of uncertainty, or utter hopelessness. This is beyond existentialism. This is more of essence. There is an obvious thrown awareness of a particular person and a particular community in any social reality. Thrown awareness is the catchword that we have to hold on to. What does it do? The Varna system assumes the creation in terms with the anatomy of Brahma itself, the creating God himself. Brahma's head, from the Brahma's head portion comes the Brahmin. From the shoulder and the chest region comes the Kshatriya. From the hip region comes the Vaishnava. From the feet region comes the Shudra. And an untouchable is completely away from the anatomy of the creator itself, from the God, from the divine itself, from God itself. Now you see how systematically you have a religious document in this country which says this particular group or this particular community would not come within the purview of who a god is, or what can possibly come from God. That's how atrocious this idea is. That is why essentialism, more than existentialism, essentialism, I think, in my view, is one of the most important philosophical views through which we have to see untouchability as an agency that violates human right. Human right, see, all of us or most of us are religious in nature, and when we say religious in nature, all of us have our own creating or creation myths. We are from this, we are from that. But here you see a popular narrative, a popular religious text which says no, this particular community cannot be assumed within the anatomy of God itself. Yeah, that's how much demeaning this particular logic is. However, there is a fifth dimension. The fifth dimension is within the Dalit community. There are two particular Dalit communities to whom the right to very choice of religion has been denied: Christian Dalits and Muslim Dalits. There is a particular document, a presidential order in 1950, which says anybody who is leaving Hindu fold and becoming Sikh, who wants to become a Sikh, or who wants to become a Christian, or who wants to be a Buddhist, or who wants to be a Muslim, will lose all their basic reservations, basic rights. However, in 20 years, before 2 decades of this presidential order, the Punjabis came together, the Sikhs came together and fought for their Dalit communities. They stood the unison and they were able to achieve it. Later in the 90s, 4 decades later, after a lot of struggle, the Buddhist Dalits were able to replenish this particular right or reservation. Till day, Dalit Christians and Dalit Muslims are kept away from these reservations, are kept away from these human basic amenities. This is a framework. This is the background. These are the 5 fundamentals through which I would like to think about what is Dalit right. What is Dalit right? Dalit right is to be assumed or thought or reflected from the deprivation of the Dalit existence. What are the Dalits deprived of? What are the Dalits deprived of? It's quite a. It sounds very simple, but it is also something which invites some sort of a serious reflection on society. So these are the deprivations. Deprivations of the Dalits take place in the following forms. What are they? 1. Denial of access to productive assets. Asset, material. Denial of access to productive assets. Secondly, denial of control over their labor and labor power. Thirdly, denial of human capital, both skills as well as opportunities of training. Fourthly, denial of social capital, that is formal and informal organizational support to launch out and diversify. The point is, there is a systematic plan to keep them away from progress. It is from this point of view we have to think and ask ourselves what is Dalit right, or what is Dalit right. At this point, I would like to quote Article 43 of the Constitution. Article 43 of the Constitution states, the state shall endeavor to secure by suitable legislation or economic organization or in any other way to all workers, agricultural, industrial, or otherwise, work a living wage condition of work, ensuring a decent standard of life and full employment of leisure and social and cultural opportunities, and in particular, the state shall endeavor to promote cottage industries on an individual and cooperative basis in rural areas. No? I think this is one of the primary articles through which Dalit right is to be thought over. Friends, I would like to conclude here. I would like to conclude here by saying, see, the articles or the possibilities we have through Constitution somehow have three things in them. The first thing is there are developmental measures. Second thing is there are protective measures. Third thing is there is a obvious positive discrimination measure. Yeah? Positive discriminational measure. There is developmental measures, there are protective measures, there are also positive discriminational measures. Discriminational measures are nothing but reservations. Protective measures are nothing but the protecting of one particular and the community. Developmental is nothing but particular and the community. See, all of these three aspects which we have in our Constitution it's been kept away systematically, basically because at all realms in this country, you have a caste perpetrator as a legislator. When I say this, I'm not only putting the blame on only the non-Dalit legislators or politicians or political thinkers or governing agencies, but there are also Dalit leaders who have failed miserably. Dalit movements who have given up on their communities' aspirations, and they have become more of authenticators of one particular political thought or one particular political party and so on. So Dalit right is till day at bay. It is at bay. It is really far from us. Yes, this is where I would like to conclude. Thank you. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hello. Yeah. This is the most integral part that I have finished. Now I think I will look for questions and see how we can go ahead with this conversation.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. Like if there is any questions pop up in the YouTube live, like Nihal will be saying you the questions, sir.
Yeah. While somebody is taking note of the questions, I would like to bring another segment, which is more of my own experience. Meanwhile, I think the particular person should be able to pen down the questions. Can I go ahead?
Yeah, sir. Sure, sir.
Okay. Yeah, this is what it was expected, I guess, from me. But on the other hand, I would also like to reveal who am I? Where is my social location? Where I come from? I have been born and brought up in Bangalore. I am basically from Ramurthy Nagar. And the initial 13 years of my life has been predominantly in Ambedkar Nagar, in Ramurthy Nagar, which is very close to Kyarpuram ITA colony and so on. There were two prominent slums in Ramurthy Nagar. One is Bovi colony, where a lot of only the Telugu Dalits lived, and the other one is a more of a diverse population. You had the Dalit Tamils, Dalit Kannadigas, Telugus, and there were also non-Dalit OBC community people who lived in and around Ambedkar colony. I am from that vicinity. Uh, from where do I get this courage to speak about caste? It's basically from these early years of my life. Um, by the age 10, by the age 10, or at least till 15 to 16 years, I personally would have seen all sorts of harassments and all sorts of abuse by the age 10 to 15. Could it be sexual? All these physical, verbal, all these abuses came basically because I was coming from a particular area, and that particular area is supposed to be an area where the unwanteds lived, where the most dirty people lived. My parents were very well educated. Uh, my mother was a very popular teacher in Ramurtinagar. My father was a popular music teacher. He was a popular footballer who worked in a central government sector. But however, these elevations did not stop people from, in a way, hating me or in a way abusing me. Um, when I look at Bangalore, the popular understanding of Bangalore is that Bangalore is a city which is away from these sort of experiences. No, as much as caste abuse, caste violence happens within the village or the rural sector, so much it happens here too in the city. And I can speak my own experiences in this regard. And there would be many of you all who are listeners, and there are also many Dalit people in the city who have spoken about this reality. See, Bangalore city is a cantonment city. It is a military region. If somebody takes a history of Bangalore very keenly, we had migrating people from Tamil Nadu and Andhra coming in, who literally built the city in many ways. Predominantly, they were all from the Dalit communities. And the way they are assumed till day is quite different. It's quite different. We might not face abuse directly at this point, but we are those people who have faced abuses of various sorts from that very young age. So I come from this particular experience. I am a Christian Dalit. By profession, I am a pastor. Uh, Passionately, I'm a musician. I'm also a theater artist. I like writing poems only from this particular perspective, from the Dalit perspective. And my thinking is completely from this experiential reality. So, friends, I stop here. There is a bit of personal that I kept before you, and also what was expected from me. There are two things, two sections before you to ask, clarify, discuss on this particular topic. Thank you.
Volunteers who have any doubts or clarifications can please to ask.
Sir, we have got two questions from our volunteers. Can I read them out?
Yes, please.
One question from Simran Rachel Singh is, how far do you think today's Dalit rights have been successful in bringing equality? Once again, how far do you think today's Dalit rights have been successful in bringing equality?
Very successful. in bringing equality. Okay, and what
Equality.
is the second?
What type of problems do Dalits in urban area faces? In urban
Urban area.
areas faces. Yes. We've got another question, sir.
Okay.
How to completely abolish all these discriminations, sir?
How to? Okay. How to
And one
abolish?
of the basic questions: What are the major problems faced by the Dalits?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
System. Okay. Uh, okay. See, Dalit rights. This is my answer to the first questions. How have the quest for Dalit rights contributed to bringing equality, or how has it been successful so far? Um, I think it has been successful in many ways, and it has also been unsuccessful in many ways. Unsuccessful in many ways. Now, we should particularly ask a question: how do you derive success? What is one's own particular yardstick? I gave you those three constitutional yardsticks, right? I gave you those three constitutional yardsticks: developmental, protective, and positive discrimination. Beyond these things, how do you as a person, or how do you as a young person, dynamic young person, perceive success, and what is the yardstick that you place before yourself to gauge success is one of the most important questions, I think, that I will place before you all. But however, we should also see how Dalit rights has not only its constitutional roots. Dalit rights also have its beginnings in various regions in this country. I would like to bring about two particularly, two from the modern era, and one example from the Bhakti era, the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th century, and so on. Um, but however, what happened in the 20th century, or the late 19th century, beginning 20th century, and throughout the 20th century is pretty amazing. People like Reverend John Ratnam in Tamil Nadu, Ayodhya Tasir, uh, their very notion of thinking about an emancipatory self identification. Emancipatory self identification. Look at this term, emancipatory self identification. Emancipatory is nothing but enjoying freedom. And in enjoying freedom, self assuming or self identifying. How do I identify in terms with my freedom? With this notion, we have the Dravida Munnetra Kazhagam, Dravida Munnetram, or the Dravidam, the philosophy of Dravidam. Initially, it had its amazing critiques and so on, but you see how in an era of this the era of 100 years, how this protesting movement also declined, how it became a rhetoric. So you see, within this protesting era, you also have success, you also have the pitfall. No, that is something which is very crucial to think about how successful it has been. Secondly, the other movement is the Periyar movement, the self-respect movement. It might sound very, raging, and it might have that essence of protest, but it is also a movement which embraced violence without criticality. The Periyar movement embraced violence without criticality. What I'm pointing at is how success and the pitfall is within this very notion of walking towards equality. Yeah. Thirdly, you see within the Maharashtra, the Phule's movements or Ambedkar's movement, the Dalit Panthers, where are they now? Where are the Ambedkarites? They are scattered. They are scattered everywhere. And they are not worried about how successful they can be. They are not worried about how successful their communities can be. They are trying to be successful. And as a collective, we are also trying to be successful. And in the process of being successful, we are also trying at this point to be self critical about our own selves, our own endeavors, because we wouldn't want to be just a rhetoric. The Brahmins hated us, the non Dalits hated us, they killed us, they raped us, so we will also do the same. No? Is this success? No, I don't think so. This is success. We are protesting against them. We are saying no to, yes, we have to say no to caste system. We have to say no to untouchability in its very radical sense, yes. But we should not engage in violence. Why am I saying this? I'm also saying this taking into considerations how Dalit movements have failed to think critically within themselves in embracing freedom. But however, the notion of Dalit right is to bring equality. I think the Dalits and the non-Dalits and the entire humanity for that matter, in this regard, in this particular social location, should walk together, in bringing equality. And the second one, urban area and see, like I said, I knew what sexual abuse, what is sexual abuse when I was 9 or 10 years old. I was locked up in a classroom by a group of my own classmates. They hit me so badly, and they also, in a way, asked me to handle their private parts. And they also played around with my private parts. Not only that, when I came from Ramurthy Nagar to St. Patrick's for my high school, later to Cathedral High School, Cathedral Pre-University, what happened there was, especially in Cathedral Pre-University, okay, he is a dark-looking, a weak-looking, Tamil-speaking guy from a particular region. Oh, this guy is fit for nothing. My outfit was ridiculed. Now you see people coming from probably Alsur or Ambedkar Nagar, like the place where I came from, or other Dalit localities. They face this sense of inferiority as they come into a certain public place. The way they dress their hair, make their hair, the way they look, their color, their outfit, their slang, all these things becomes very consciousness, and you're also judged on that regard. You see, so urban area, as I said, it is not very different from how it is in rural. Rural, at least they are honest to what they believe. Could it be violent or non-violent? Could it be abuse or what? They're honest. They know what they are doing, and they're exposing themselves as they are. But in urban, it comes with some sort of mask, some sort of cover up. Even in my teens, I remember in some of the houses they wouldn't allow me, or very seldom people came into my house to have a meal with me, or to share a meal with me, or to drink water. Not all of them. Not all of them came. And so is within the city limits. You ask the Dalit people living in Dalit locations, they'll give you huge lists. And look at the way how the slums are assumed within the city. Dirty, stink. Everything else should be beautiful and nice. Everything else is supposed to be the garden. Everything else is supposed to be the avenue where the trees are, the cleanly built houses are, the streets are neat, the Brigade Road, the MG Road. Why is there no interest of development in the slum section? Look at their surroundings. On the other hand, look at those people who are manually scavenging even today. Where are they coming from? Aren't these discriminatory? So these are the experiences of Dalits in urban section. And See, the list can go on, but what I'm also trying to tell you is, you ask yourself and you start seeing, and you also ask your friends who are coming from Dalit localities. They will tell you stories. Thirdly, how to abolish. We should think about caste from all possible views. For example, from the political view, from the sociological view, from anthropological view, from philosophical view, from medicine, from healthcare, from education, from constitutional. See, life is a bundle of perspectives. Life is assumed by various perspectives. Now we have to look at caste from all these perspectives. And we have to look at caste from the victim's point of view, the misery of the victim. Only then we can think of abolishing caste system or untouchability. We should ask this question from the misery of the affected, the misery of the victim, and then think what is the way out. Yes, these are my spontaneous answers or reflections on the three questions that were raised.
So we've got a couple more questions. Could I read them
Okay.
out?
Okay.
Okay. So one of the first questions is, are Dalit quota given priority considering that several Dalits are gaining status in the society? Is the quota really necessary? I'll repeat the question.
Yes,
Are Dalit
outright
quota given
answer to this
priority?
question. Quota is necessary. Quota is very much necessary. Just imagine 2,000, 3,000 years of atrocious untouchability, and we have survived it. And just because some 10% of the Dalit community has experienced some sense of progression in life, some sense of decency in life, it doesn't mean quota should be eradicated. Eradication of quota is very anti-human. It is very dehuman in many ways. Quota is necessary.
Thank you, sir. The next question is, can Ambedkarites follow any religion? If yes, then why did Baba Sahib follow Buddhism?
Okay.
Repeat the question. Can Ambedkarites follow any religion? If yes, then why did Baba Sahib follow Buddhism?
Religion and why Buddhism? Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yes, sir. We have a couple more questions. Could I read them out to you?
Okay.
Does untouchability still exist in 2020? Another question.
I'm sorry.
Does untouchability still exist in 2020?
Yes, it does exist.
Yes, of course. Next question. What's the difference between Dalits and Nada's ideology? What's the difference between Dalits and Nada's ideology?
What is that, the second term? Nadas.
Nada's ideology.
Spell it out.
Nadars.
Oh, Nadas. Okay.
Yeah, Nadas.
So Dalit and Nadar.
Yeah, Nada's ideology.
Okay. Could you also ask that particular person to elaborate on this question and
Yes,
give
sir,
me
sure.
some sort of real life incidents, or what is it that the person is expecting? While which I will try to answer the Ambedkarite, what are the religions they can follow, or why did Ambedkar choose Buddhism?
Definitely, sir.
I think to that question, Ambedkarites are at various walks of life. There are some Ambedkarites who have denounced religion itself, who claim themselves to be rationalists. I am a Christian Ambedkarite. I have a friend who is a Muslim Ambedkarite. But however, the question is, why did Ambedkar choose Buddhism? As I said, in researching and contemplating and looking at history, what Ambedkar did was to see, has there been caste resistance in this particular land? Who are these broken men? Why are the Buddhists in those days hated? We have to consider all of this, and we also have to consider how Ambedkar was wanting to be a progressive nationalist. I think this question should be addressed from that point of view. And Ambedkar precisely embraced Buddhism because of its rationality, the possibility of rationality within the religion, and Buddhism is from the land. Buddhism did not come into this land. Rather, Buddhism is a part of this land. Even from the very beginning of civilization or post-civilization studies and so on. This is why probably Ambedkar chose Buddhism.
So could I read a couple more questions?
Okay.
How does Periyar's teaching impact Dalits? The next one.
Okay.
What type of problems do Dalits face in public sector?
Impact Dalits.
Okay.
What is the second one?
What type of problems do Dalits face in public sector?
Public sector. Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah. Then the concept of caste is from Hindu religion. Why is it so that the caste system has seeped through to Indians of other religions?
Okay.
We got a couple more. What do you think is the similarities and differences in the ideologies of Jesus Christ and Ambedkar?
Similarities. Okay.
Yeah, similarities and differences in the ideologies of Jesus Christ and Ambedkar.
Okay.
And next question. How human rights provide protection to Dalits? Okay. Can I read the next question?
Okay.
Even though untouchability exists and government have made so many rules to eradicate untouchability, why is it not still eradicated?
Still not eradicated. Okay.
And another one, do they treat Dalits and Nadas differently? Do Nadas look down at Dalits?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. These are the questions, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Periyar's teachings, Periyar's movement is supposed to be understood as self-respect, or the beginning of Dravida Munnetram. It is more of self-respect. How one has to assume self-respect. Self-respect does not come from out. Don't wait for somebody else to give you respect. You assert yourself in terms with respect. Periyar's teachings have definitely impacted Dalit movements. Of course, basically because Periyar's rage against Hinduism, rage against religion itself. In one sense, it is against Hinduism. In another sense, it is against systematic religion. Periyar's movement gave rise to the possibility of rationality in terms with the self-assertion. Okay, that is something that which is very pertinent and very precise about Periyar's teachings and the impact on Dalits. Even now, you see how people like Paranjit time and again quotes and acknowledges Periyar's contribution. You have you have Tiruma, you have Ravi Kumar, all of them who compliment. There are also anti-Periyar Dalits, but however, in every aspect of assuming freedom, there have been success, there have been pitfalls within the same assumed movement. That is where I stand. Problem in public sector. So governmental organizations and so on. As I said, who are the ones who does the most menial work? How are the people treated who come into government sectors or public sectors through reservation quotas. You have a band of newses every day flooding. You also have unrecorded experience of so many around us. It's not an easy thing. Within the student community, when somebody says, I have come into this through the quota, oh, quota la vantapa, you have that derogation immediately. Oh, he came there. There are also very intelligent Dalit intellectuals at all realms. They have not taken quota, and they have come through general categories to basically prove themselves and to say, no, this is not who we are. You have this Dalits in public sectors, private sectors, in MNCs, not even in MNCs, you come from a certain area again, and you spell out something about Ambedkar. You spell out something about Dalit or Dalitism or Ambedkarite ideology. Oh, this fellow is from that particular community. This fellow, this girl is from. Oh, they all will speak like that. As though we are always with loose knots. We are available for them to abuse. It is there. It is obviously there. Caste system in Hindu, yes, of course. Why other religion too? If you ask me as a priest, Christian pastor, if you ask me a question, is there caste differences? Is there caste abuse in church today? Yes, there is. By the end of the day, all of us are from byproducts of this particular land. Directly or indirectly, all of us, irrespective of our conversional experience, we have not given up on caste, basically because to certain communities it gives privilege, so they would want to hold on to. So you will have a Brahmin Christian, you will have a Modaliyar Christian, you will have a Nadar Christian, and you will also have a Christian from the AC community. You will have two graveyards, one for Dalits and one for non-Dalits. You have churches where Dalits will not be entertained to come and participate actively in the church. There are also churches where the church is completely Dalit in nature. Why am I speaking only about Christianity? Is basically because this is personal to me. Now, you should ask your own friends and you should ask your own religion this particular question. Why does caste remain in my religion? How does caste remain in my religion? I think there is no religion in this country which escapes the reality of caste, because the dominants, the caste dominants, enjoy the privilege, and they want to continue with the caste privilege even after the conversion experience. Yeah. Jesus and Ambedkar. There are several thinkers who have written about this. Particularly when I look at what brings Jesus's movement and Ambedkar. Within the framework of understanding Jesus, there are various perspectives in understanding Jesus. Jesus is assumed as a spiritual leader. Jesus is also assumed as a rebel. Jesus is also assumed as a revolutionary. Jesus is assumed as a political thinker and a religio-political revolutionary. So we have scholars like Marcus Borg, who give the political side of Jesus, who interpreted the context of Jesus and the gospel of Jesus within its own political realm. Jesus against the Roman Empire, Jesus or Caesar, you see. And Jesus is asking pertinent questions in terms with purity and pollution. Jesus is saying, what is important? Your importance to Sabbath or human? Who is the center of your thinking? Jesus in many ways is a political, social, religious, not reformer, revolutionary. Here I would like to make a differentiation between a reformer and a revolutionary. Reformer basically reconstructs the structure. A revolutionary does not restructure completely deconstructs the very notion of that particular idea. So in that sense, Jesus and Ambedkar come together because they both are revolutionaries. Here you should also bring in Buddha. Jesus, Ambedkar, Buddha, all of them are revolutionary in what sense? Because they deconstructed the very notion of thinking that contributed to violating human beings, violating human premises. The rich is becoming richer. Somebody is sitting at the throne and manipulating the entire society. Jesus went against the powers and principalities of his time. Ambedkar went against the powers and principalities of his time. Buddha went against the powers and principalities of. If there is something very crucial and some sense of connectedness, it is that revolutionary political and religious essence. They had the courage to think beyond. Human rights protect Dalit. Yeah. I am waiting for a day where human right becomes an actuality. You have UNO, you have Amnesty International, but can they influence at the ground level? They can say this is what it is and this is how it is. This is human right. This is how human dignity should be described, and so on. But in reality, in grassroots levels, are these relevant? Are these assumed to be relevant? You know, if one takes the question to that level, then you will see the relevance of human rights. If you ask me personally, yes, human rights does protect not only Dalits, it protects everybody. Human right is against every violation. Human right is against our friends would want to have their caste privilege. Hey, I am from this. You see on the bikes or on autos or on cars, I am a Gauda, I am a Reddy, I am a Jat. Even Jat in Bangalore, I have seen behind a bullet, behind a Scorpio. I am a Jat. I'm an Adar Christian. At the point of marriage, you will see this very obviously. When people are looking for alliances, they will look for Jati. And within Jati, what Gotra? This is Hindu. But if you ask in Christianity, are you a Christian from this particular region? If you're from this particular region, what is your caste? Are you a one-year gounder? Are you a 1 year? Are you a counder? Are you an Adar? Are you a Pillai? You see, people carry this because it gives them some sense of privilege. Privilege, you know, quote and unquote the word privilege. They enjoy this dominance over the other. It gives them some sort of arrogance. So they would like to carry it on. When such is the reality, how can we eradicate? We have to eradicate together. It is not only those who are affected. Those who also practice should realize that this dehumanizes them. This keeps them away from being human. They should also think that. And we should also be self-critical about what I can possibly do, what I can possibly contribute, how I can possibly contribute to violence. It is the coming together of people. It is the coming together of people on one hand. On the other hand, when the Dalits are wanting to come from one level to another level, is there a premise to cherish, relish, and celebrate? Will people celebrate my transition in the society? Even now, when I go to my birthplace, there are people who will celebrate me. There are also people who hate me. Ivana in Tamil, Ivana. This fellow, like there is a saying in Bible, how can anything good come from Nazareth? Because Jesus is from Nazareth. So people are zapped to understand, oh, how can Jesus come from that particular place? That particular place is supposed to be fit for nothing. The most heinous place. When you have such ideas embedded in people and society and in religion and in politics, how can we eradicate? You tell me. How can we eradicate? I want to eradicate. I have a band of people who want to eradicate. Will you join this march against caste? Will you denounce caste and come? When I am coming as a Dalit from one place to another place, when I'm moving, transiting from one level to another, will you acknowledge my transition? Or will you say this fellow came through quota? This fellow is using the Dalit tag. Now this fellow is playing sympathy. Finally, on the question of on Nadar and Dalits, it has affected the church very badly. See, here, let me be politically right. IMS, Indian Missionary Society, started by a very famous bishop, the first Indian Anglican bishop, Bishop Azaria. He is from a Nadar community, from Tirunelveli. He came into the most affected places within Andhra, Dornakal, and so on. And he went against three things. He went against caste. He said no to caste, no to system of dowry, and no to alcoholism. You see progressive people there. You also see repressive people here. You also see progressive people here. You also see regressive people here. I think this question is more to do with the Christians here in the city. I think we should think beyond that. What unites a Christian Nadar and a Christian Dalit? Christ. In Christ, we are one. Can we relate? I'll come to your place, you come to my place. I will share my household, you share my household. But when it comes to marriage, you will see a huge gap. No. That level I won't. See, that is where we have to ask a very serious Christian question. What matters the most? Is caste the most important thing that you have to depend upon, or Christ? You choose. You tell. Christ or caste? I think this is the question to both the communities. Yes, this is where I am. Yes, I think I have. Is there anything else, or what is it?
We've got more questions, sir. The volunteers are very active.
But do you have time? Do you have time?
We could go till 6:30, sir.
Okay.
As per your preference.
Okay. Yes, go ahead.
So, could you explain Periyar's ideology on Dalit women's? Could you explain Periyar's ideology on Dalit women's? Next one. What benefits do Dalits get from their rights? Next one. Once converted from Hinduism, why are Christians...
After Periyar ideology, what is the second one?
What benefits do Dalits get from their rights? What benefits do Dalit get from their rights? Next one. Once converted from Hinduism, why are Christians differentiated as Dalit Christians? Also, why are there separate churches for Dalit Christians? And the volunteer has a statement along with the question stating that Christ loved all the same way, and there should be nothing like Dalit, and everybody should be Christians.
Okay.
The next question, sir. Why do we humans divide among ourselves? Do you think will all this unwanted system, etc., will be destroyed in people's mind in the following generation?
Okay.
And next question, sir. Can I know that what are the practices available to eradicate Dalit system? And is there any courses which are set up to practice it? Yeah.
Okay. I think we'll take up this 5 question and see if time permits us.
Okay, sir. Definitely, sir. Thank you.
As much as Buddha had the essence of feminism, as much as the Bhakti movement celebrated feminism, because you have in Tamil culture Avvayar, and you have, in the history, before locating Periyar, I'm saying how this land has already embedded some essence of protest, some essence of equality. It is not that Periyar is initiating something new. It is not that Ambedkar is initiating something new. It is not that Pule is initiating something new. Before Pule, Ambedkar, there was Kabir. Before Periyar, there was Reverend John Ratnam and Ayodhi Dasar. The idea of rationality. Within Tamil culture, there is a stream, an ancient stream, which counted caste, which counted hegemony within culture, and that particular era is called Asivagam. Asivagam. It is supposed to be an ideal society at some point. Asivagam. Feminism has its roots from that era. Periyar is only disclosing what he could assume for himself and say it is not only Periyar is assuming all of this in history, and he is not only saying the Dalits and the untouchables that you have to declare your own self-worth, and we have to say no to the gods which contribute to disrespect. He's also saying within humanity is not only about caste, it is also about gender. The birth of feminism. I think that is Periyar's leaning, and to put Periyar in a certain historical perspective. Secondly, benefits from their rights. I have personally not been benefited much. One might say, okay, a particular Dalit guy or a girl has got to this particular seat, and he or she has become a doctor, engineer, he or she has become a IAS, IPS. But then, even there at that point, has the place been free of abuse? Is that particular person in transition experiencing freedom? No. That is why you see doctors who commit suicide, engineers who commit suicide, thinkers who commit suicide, because such is the abuse. See, on one hand, there is constitutional availability of rights, protection, and so on. On the other hand, you have both. Some experience it, some don't experience it. Those who experience it, are they experiencing freedom in the assumed way? No, they are not. So in a way, it is just a written document. It is yet to be realized. It is yet to be realized in its fullest sense, in its fullest meaning. Thirdly, Dalit Christians. Jesus loved everybody. I also know Jesus loved everybody. But do you love everybody like Jesus did? Did this country, see, at 1950, that is where we have to be politically aware of certain orders that were passed post-independence. 1950, there is a presidential order which says anybody getting converted from Hinduism to Sikhism, Islam, Christianity, and Buddhism will lose all the rights, will lose all the Ask a question: why did that order come into existence? Why did that particular president came to such conclusions? You see that outright discrimination. It is almost like what Gandhi says: you fight, but you still remain a Hindu. But Ambedkar says no, impossible. Unknowingly, I became a part of this particular community, but I won't die in this community. I will I will carve out my own way. I will seek out my own without losing my. See, on the other hand, there is some naivism or naivety in saying why Dalit Christianity. Christianity is supposed to be all religion is supposed to be a religion of equality. On the other hand, all religion also contributes to inequality. But within your own embracing of religiosity and spirituality, what do you take? Do you take the abusive part and propagate a politics through that, or do you take the progressive part and lead a progressive political, social, religious lifestyle? It's the pertinent question. Like I asked, I know Christ loved everybody. But are my Christian people loving everybody as Christ loved? No, no. Until then, this question will remain. It has to be there. It will humanize the entire process. Like a very famous theologian, M. Thomas, again from a dominant caste background. What is salvation? Humanization. You know, the fourth question is, why do humans divide themselves? This is a very psychological question with some political interest in it. Here I would like to bring in Carl Jung, because I'm a Jungian. Within my own stream of psychology, I'm more of a Jungian. I'm more of a depth psychology school of thought kind of person, you know. Collective consciousness. What you have as subconsciousness is not only yours, it is the entire humanities. So within you, you have the history of the entire humanity. And what does that entire humanity have? The entire humanity in its memory has stories of abuse and stories of freedom too. Now, how to get rid of it? We should come into a certain consciousness through a certain way of life, what Jung would call as individuation. There is obvious collective unconsciousness. Unknowingly, I do certain things basically because I am not my own, but I am also that of the entire human history. You come to realization, you face your own demons. That is why self-criticality. I kept saying in my the first section of my presentation and through answering some questions, Dalit community should, not only Dalit communities, anybody should always engage with the notion of self-criticality. What is the demon within me? I know I am affected, but however, is there a possibility of affecting from my side? Can I affect? You know how the common politics is become my personal question now. So human divide should be thought from that point of view. Should be thought from that point of view. I can go on and on, especially on this regard because of time. But anyone who's interested in this question, I'm here in Bangalore. You can reach out to me through your own friends who got me here. The final question, practices available, untouchability. What is the fifth question? Practices available to eradicate untouchability. See, one classic example, classic proposal, again from Ambedkar or Periyar, is a mixed marriage. Are you ready for a mixed marriage? My parents are from a mixed marriage. My grandparents are from a mixed marriage. I am a mixed marriage. I am ready. But are you ready? Let's personalize these very big questions. I'm not authenticating marriage as a most progressive institution in the society. No, I'm not saying that. Marriage has its own drawbacks and so on. We should talk about that too at some point later. But however, there are various availabilities. There are various ways to get rid of untouchability. Forget the context of COVID. Who taught us to drink water, keeping the glass away from? Why do we still drink that way? It has its roots in untouchability. Why were utensils at some point in human civilization have some kind of curve at the fringe of the vessel? It's basically the era or the culture at that point was untouchability or purity and pollution. You know, there are various practices. Will you give up on dowry? Will you, as a man, consider woman as your equal in all sense? In all sense, we should not say in this particular men are good and in this particular women are no. Equality in all sense. When you can say something to a woman, will you receive the same vigor coming from a woman? You know, there are various ways to counter caste, to counter discriminations. But are we willing? Are we willing? Will I stop calling names? There are so many things, you know. Yeah. So, yeah, I think I'm done.
As the time does not permit us for more questions, I believe we'll end our question and answer session here. Thank you very much, sir, for your answers and explanations. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your wonderful session. It has really brought us an enlightenment. As we have come to an end of the session, now I would like to request Shobita to give the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Ritu. Good evening, all. I'm Shobita from second year IFA. It gives me immense pleasure to propose the vote of thanks for this webinar. Firstly, I would like to thank our today's speaker, Reverend Emmanuel Nemea, for speaking about the Dalit Rights Day and making us to inspire and know more about the Dalit communities, the concept of untouchability and their rights. Thank you, sir, for your inspiring speech. I would also like to thank our principal, Father Dr. Victor Lobo SJ, and the management of St. Joseph's College for having this webinar. I thank NSS Program Officer Prasad sir for his constant support and guidance to all of us. Thank you, sir. I also thank all the NSS volunteers for an active participation in this webinar. Lastly, I thank each and everybody for their active participation and have a wonderful evening. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. So do I
Thank you,
leave?
Shobita.
Okay. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
The, the feedback form will be open for 15 minutes. So I request the volunteers to clearly mention their register number and volunteer ID to mark your attendance. Late submissions will not be accepted.
Sir, you can leave the meeting.
Thank you. Thank you.